The first wrong note lingered in the air like a held breath, and for a moment the entire restaurant seemed to forget how to move as a woman in a simple red dress pressed a trembling finger against an old piano key. It was late in Chicago, the kind of night when glass windows reflect tired faces and half-finished dreams, and the man standing behind her had built an empire, yet felt strangely hollow. If this happened to you, if you stumbled into a place thinking it was just another stop in a long, exhausting day, would you notice the quiet miracle forming right in front of you, or would you turn away like he almost did? Michael Turner had spent most of his life believing that numbers told the truth better than people ever could. As the CEO of a powerful logistics company headquartered in the United States, his days were filled with boardrooms, legal threats, acquisitions, and the constant pressure of growth. Kindness, to him, was a word used in marketing campaigns and shareholder letters, something polished and safe that never slowed progress. That night, he had come to the restaurant alone after a failed meeting, his tie loosened, his phone buzzing with unread messages, carrying the familiar weight of decisions that affected thousands but rarely touched his own heart. The piano near the back of the room was more decorative than functional, a piece of furniture meant to suggest culture rather than invite it. When Hannah sat down, no one expected anything profound. She was a server finishing her shift, her feet aching, her mind exhausted by another day of polite smiles and small tips. Music had once been her escape before life demanded rent, medical bills, and responsibility after responsibility piled onto her shoulders. She had not planned to play. She simply needed a moment to breathe before stepping back into the cold night. As her hands moved, the tune was painfully simple, almost childlike and imperfect in ways that made it human. The melody wavered, slowed, and found itself again, much like a life trying to stay afloat. It carried something raw, something untrained yet honest, and Michael felt it before he understood it. He had been about to leave, already reaching for his coat, when a memory surfaced of his mother humming in their small Ohio home, before ambition took him far away from such sounds. What if you were standing there, wrapped in success, yet starving for meaning, and a stranger unknowingly held up a mirror to everything you had lost? Hannah played with her eyes closed, unaware of who was listening or why it mattered. The restaurant quieted, forks paused mid-air, conversations softened, and the world shrank to those few fragile notes. For Michael, the sound cut through years of self-imposed armor. He remembered nights when kindness was not a strategy but a necessity, when neighbors helped neighbors because no one had enough. Somewhere along the way, he had learned to measure worth by efficiency, forgetting the slow, inconvenient beauty of compassion. The tune ended without flourish, fading rather than stopping, and Hannah sat still as if afraid to disturb what she had created. Applause came hesitantly, then grew, not loud but sincere. She stood, embarrassed, and returned to her duties, her moment already slipping back into anonymity. Michael watched her walk away, noticing the slight limp in her step, and the way she adjusted her posture to hide the pain. He realized how rarely he looked at the people who made his world function, how easily he categorized them as roles rather than souls. He stayed longer than planned, nursing a drink he no longer wanted, watching Hannah move between tables with quiet endurance. The restaurant manager spoke briefly with her, their expressions serious, and Michael sensed the weight of unspoken worry. It struck him that his company's latest restructuring, which he had approved without hesitation, had likely created dozens of nights like hers, filled with uncertainty and forced resilience. The thought unsettled him more than any financial risk ever had. When he finally left, the city felt different, as though the piano tune had tuned something inside him as well. Sleep did not come easily. The melody replayed itself, each imperfect note asking a question he could no longer ignore. If you were given everything you thought you wanted and still felt empty, would you dare to admit that something essential was missing, or would you bury yourself deeper in distractions? Days passed, but the feeling remained. Michael found himself paying attention in ways he never had before, noticing tired eyes in meetings, the nervous energy of employees afraid to speak, the subtle cost of decisions made too quickly. He asked questions without expecting immediate answers and listened without planning his response. It was uncomfortable, slow, and strangely grounding. He requested reports on employee welfare, not because a consultant suggested it, but because he needed to know. A week later, he returned to the restaurant, unsure of what he was looking for. Hannah was there again, moving with the same quiet strength, and when their eyes briefly met, she smiled out of habit, unaware of the shift she had sparked. Michael left a generous tip, but it felt insufficient, almost insulting, compared to what he had received. He began to understand that kindness was not a transaction, not something you repaid and forgot, but a responsibility that changed how you moved through the world. Over the following months, changes rippled outward. Michael implemented programs he once would have dismissed as inefficient, providing support for employees struggling quietly, funding music and art initiatives in communities his company operated in, and restructuring workloads to value human limits. Shareholders questioned him, analysts speculated, but he held firm, guided by a simple piano tune that had taught him more than any leadership seminar ever could. Hannah never knew the full extent of her impact. She eventually saved enough to pursue music classes again, her life slowly opening to possibilities she had nearly abandoned. Somewhere in the city, an old piano continued to sit in a corner, waiting for another tired soul to find it. Michael, for his part, carried the lesson with him, aware now that true leadership began not with control but with compassion, and that the smallest acts could reshape even the most powerful hearts. Just before the ending, take a moment and comment below what that simple piano tune would have changed in your own life if you had been standing there that night. If this story truly touched your heart, gently reminding you of the power of kindness and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe so more hearts can be reached through stories like this.